Hi friends, this is Joe, and this is episode number 175 of the Decahedron RPG podcast. And today we are answering some long overdue feedback. I'm very behind in feedback. I'm starting at the most recent. I'm going back in time. I'm not doing them all today. We don't have time for that. But let's start at the most recent. And the most recent was an email I got from a listener named Ron up in Canada. Never wrote in before. This is what Ron had to say. Hi Joe, just a quick note from one of your podcast listeners who has never given any feedback. We are out here. I listen to D&D podcasts at work. I regularly tune in to your pod along with Nerds RPG, Hindsightless, Bandits Keep, Minions, Grognog Files, Keep Off the Borderlands, and many other. I appreciate the work you guys do and enjoy hearing what everyone is up to with gaming and life. Cheers from Canada, Ron. Hey Ron, thanks for that feedback. Thanks a lot. I love hearing from new people. Canada, as fate would have it, my wife is in Canada as we speak. She went up there this morning to pick up her mom from the airport. We live so close to the border that when we have to fly overseas, a lot of the time it's easier just to fly out of Toronto than it is to fly locally. And that's what her mom did. Her mom had to go to Scotland for a funeral. So she's coming back today, and my wife is up in Toronto right now picking her up. And a few weeks ago, me and my daughter went up to Toronto to see Come From Away, a musical about Gander in Newfoundland on 9/11. A great musical. I recommend it. Has nothing to do with gaming, but it's still a great musical. Yeah, you say Canada. I'm really curious where in Canada. And I'm curious what kind of job you have where everybody listens to gaming podcasts. Although, now that I think about it, maybe you listen quietly with like headphones or something. I was imagining something like Office where like one stereo on stereo. What year is this? With one speaker on and everybody listening to the same thing. But the more I think about this, it probably makes more sense that you listen over over headphones. But yeah, thanks for that feedback. Great list of podcasts. I listened to every single one of those. As I was reading them off, I was like, oh, Keep on the Borderlands. I don't listen to that one. And I was like, wait, no, that's the actual name of the Movie Mondays podcast, back when it used to have gaming content. No, but it's a great podcast. All those are great podcasts. And thanks again for that feedback. It lifted my spirits greatly. Thanks much. My next feedback is Daniel from the Bandits Keep podcast. Another great podcast. You know I'm going to say listen to it. Listen to it. Although it's kind of on hiatus right now, I think. But there's also the Bandits Keep YouTube channel. The content, unlike me, who uses the same content for both, Daniel has different content for his YouTube channel than his podcast. They focus on different things. And there's a logic to that, but that's another topic for another day. Let's give a listen to Daniel.
Hey Joe, it's Daniel from Bandits Keep. Sorry, my voice is a little messed up. Just listened to your latest episode, and I realized I hadn't called in for feedback in a while, so see, you just got to ask for it, I guess. So, yeah, it's interesting. You make a lot of interesting points about the kind of shouting into a void kind of thing. And I don't know, it depends. For me, it really kind of depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I kind of don't care, which I think I addressed in the APA. Sometimes I do. It's hard to say no. And one of the things that I think is nice about the podcast versus YouTube is that unless you go looking for it, which I don't, I never know how many people are listening. So for me, for the podcast, I just like to imagine that people are listening. But YouTube, right, you can have a video and it's doing really well. Then, like you said, your feedback videos don't necessarily do as well. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I did all that work for one person. But I think it's a long game, And as people discover your channel and as they discover more stuff, some videos, actually talking to KR about this the other day, that he had a video that he really enjoyed producing, and it did terrible by his standard. And then like 3 months later, it kind of blew up. So YouTube's weird like that. I guess podcasts can be too, but YouTube has that kind of potential for virility, that you may find that something might reach a larger audience later. So I just say you do what you like doing, do what's awesome, and hopefully the audience will find it. Anyways, keep up the good work. I will talk to you soon.
Thanks for that, Daniel. Okay, in my intro, I said that was a topic for another time. I guess it's a topic for now. So Daniel, and for that matter, Ron, were responding to my episode where I was talking about gaffeation and podfading, all that stuff. And I was talking about how, sometimes life gets in the way, and then you get caught in this whole cycle, and then you even get into the, is it worth doing this thing? And so many things to respond to in Daniel's feedback here. I don't know where to start. So the first thing that Daniel said is one of the things he likes about podcasting is unless you go looking for it, you don't see those numbers. And yeah, so at one point, James asked me, how are the numbers looking? How many listeners are you getting on the podcast or whatever? And I'm like, dude, that is the path to madness. And yeah, I also make a conscious effort not to look. Because like you said, sometimes you care and sometimes you don't. But the podcast and YouTube audiences are very different things mentally, right? I say jokingly that YouTube audiences are fickle, right? Because I have like 80 subscribers on YouTube right now, something like that. Yeah, don't laugh. I know it's, I think Daniel has like 1,500. I don't know. But not all of them watch every episode. Whereas I think I have like half of that subscribers on the podcast. And podcast listeners tend to listen to every episode, right? It's because you subscribe to it and it gets caught in your podcatcher and you listen to it. And so I actually feel like I have a closer relationship with the podcast listeners than I do with the YouTube people. Because YouTube, and maybe I'm just projecting the way I do it, right? But YouTube, you just turn on YouTube and it gives you a screen full of stuff and you're like, no, not this one, not this one. Oh, I like them, but that one's a little long for right now, and you skip that one, Yeah, I really like them. Yeah, we'll watch that one, right? And whatever. Whereas my podcasts, they show up, I don't even look at the titles or anything. I just put in my headphones, and when I go to the gym or when I'm driving, I do it. I don't listen to podcasts at work. I guess I'm talking back to Ron now, because, and maybe it depends on the kind of work you do, right? But my work, I need to be in my headspace a lot. I'm a computer programmer, software engineer, and you're thinking about what this is doing and what it needs to be doing, what the other stuff is doing that's going to be calling this stuff. And if I listen to podcasts, I find that it's noise that I'm not listening to. And when I listen to a podcast, I like to listen to a podcast. So yeah, I tried it a little bit, and I don't. So yeah. I don't know where I'm going with this. So one of the things you said, Daniel, was sometimes you care, sometimes you don't. No, I get that. I get that completely, right? Because some things you want to create for the joy of creation, right? And it doesn't make a difference if anyone's going to listen to it or read it or whatever. It's in there and it needs to come out. Shirts and Skirts was like that for me. And I mentioned that because this weekend I spent some time writing Shirts and Skirts out long form instead of the outline that I used to present it. For those that don't know, by the way, Shirts and Skirts is a science fiction RPG that I wrote, written to emulate the tropes in the feel of the, let's say, the Space Journeys television series, because I don't have licensing money to pay to anybody. That was popular in the 1960s. But taking a different tack than I've seen other publishers take with it and stuff. And yeah, so I spent some time working on that this weekend, and it will probably show up in the APA, and I don't know, people might read it, they might not. All right. And other things, it's almost the same thing, right? You care so much, you want to know that has resonated with anyone. And so you look at the numbers on that one. I I don't do that for the podcast, because like I said, almost no one listens to a podcast on an episode by episode basis. Oh, what's the topic this week? No, I'm not going to download that one. Yeah, at least that's the way I think it goes. YouTube is the other way around. And as for not caring, doing what I do, yeah, I think, maybe I tell myself to feel better. I think if I really wanted to play the YouTube game, I think I could do better than I do right now, right? Because we're talking about YouTube audience and their fickleness, right? And if I were to concentrate on one thing, D&D, because it's the elephant in the room, it's the one thing that everybody is familiar with when they think role-playing games, I think I would do a lot better than my scattergun approach, where I'll talk about D&D this week, I'll talk about Traveler that week, I'll talk about Tunnels and Trolls, because that's what I want to do. Because to me, gaming is not just D&D. Gaming is this whole family of things, and that's important to me. And I'm not gonna leave that part out just to chase numbers, right? I'm gonna be true to who I am. And as for that thing, by the way, as for one view, one listener, that was hyperbole. It's never had anything with just one view, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. Oh, you were talking about the long tail. You didn't call it the long tail, but that's what it's called. Where stuff that you made 3 years ago suddenly gets popular or something, and then that creates this bubble effect that makes your other stuff come up. Yeah, that's true. I agree. I really don't have much more to add to it. In my body of work, wow, that sounds awfully pretentious, doesn't it? My body of work. But my body of YouTube videos haven't been out there that long for me to notice that. And like you said, I don't really go chasing down the numbers, because as I said, to that way lies madness. But it was great hearing from you, Daniel. Thank you very much. Like I said, Daniel is the host of the Bandits Keep podcast. Even though it's on hiatus right now, there are a lot of great episodes in the catalog. He is the host of the Bandits Keep YouTube channel. And he is the co-host of, I think it's called Monsters and Treasure. To be honest, I've never listened to it, just because I've never, my podcast list is full, and if there's ever a slot, that one's just never been, oh yeah, I need to subscribe to that one. So that's bad on me, but you can only do what you can do. Thanks a lot, Daniel. Until next time. So these next two that I'm going to do, and I'm going to play them back to back before I reply, are about my episode that was about too much color. Now, if you only watch me on YouTube, you probably don't know what I'm talking about, because I was never able to upload that episode. iMovie did something really weird. Let me export the audio portion, which I put out as a podcast, and then when I went to put out the video, it just said, nah. And yeah, I don't know. I'm getting a little frustrated with iMovie, and I downloaded Shotcut, and this episode I'm going to produce on Shotcut, and that's why another reason why I'm trying to make this one's kind of short, so I'm learning new software on top of everything else. So yeah, but in a nutshell, that episode was saying that there is this line where the amount of color that you put in, the amount of background that you put in as a player, as a GM, becomes more of a burden than a help to the players. That's a short version of what was like a 20-minute episode. But let's listen to feedback from Evil Jeff and then Jason, and then I will come in with my response.
Joe, it's Evil Jeff. All right, latest podcast has been heard, and I have a rebuttal. And actually, it's not to sit there and say, because you pointed out the calendar I had made in there, but it's basically talking about the calendar. So if I am playing in somebody else's world and I want to be immersed in it, I really shouldn't expect a carbon copy of the calendar of the real world. To me, that breaks the immersion. Yes, it is color, and yes, you're right. too much color breaks, especially when it breaks along lines that are unrealistic. But the idea, though, that I'm into saying, oh, hey, it's April, it's May, it's June. Yes, that's a reference point that I understand, but it brings me back into this world. And I don't want to be in this world. I'm trying to be in the other world. So maybe it is based upon the style of game you like to play or the preference of the mind load that you want to have. You know, as you said, you're a minimalist in many things. So then the minimal number of changes that you've got to make to create the world works for you to be engaged in it. Now, I agree, you know, oh, I got to know Greyhawks or Forgotten Realms calendar. Well, if I remember correctly, that calendar is fairly much like the calendar that we do have. They just changed the names. And you can fairly well equate things. So, I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult, but you're right. You have to make that switch in there in your head, which can pull you out of the game. Unless you have invested far too much energy into learning all that stuff. But that's an opinion, which probably is more right than anything else, but that's beside the point. So, yeah, there's the rebuttal. Appreciate what you've been putting out there. And, I guess I better finish up this, yard mowing and get to writing mailing comments for the APA. Later.
Hey, Joe, this is Jason. Just listened to your last episode where you talked about too much color in your campaigns. And I also enjoyed the previous episode where you talked about different kinds of starter maps. Sorry I didn't call in about that. I think you're right. It's a fine balance. I know for the most part I just ignore background stuff. I've told Carl Rodriguez of the Gemologist Presents in the past that I don't want to have to do homework for my games. And I don't want to have to learn a whole deep setting, especially for a one-shot or a short campaign, right? If we're playing a multi-year campaign, I may be more inclined to invest into a lot of setting detail, but honestly, I'm in your camp. Maybe too much in your camp. And I think sometimes, although I tend to have to run one-shots and things because of my schedule, but I think sometimes I don't give people enough, so I worry about that. But, you know, I run games in the real world a whole lot, like the 1980s or something like that. And I don't know that I have to add a whole lot to that because we're running in the real world. So I think that makes my life easier because I don't tend to run fantasy a whole lot. But, yeah, I don't know. But it's a good discussion. I'm interested to see what people think and if you get any pushback. Take care.
All right, so that was Evil Jeff, host of the Minions and Musings podcast, and Jason, host of the Nerds RPG Variety Cast, back to back. And really, I think they are both beautiful counterpoints to each other, and there's not a lot I need to add, especially after I did the whole episode. So you know where I stand. Other than, I think they both make the point, and it's true with almost every single topic that I ever discuss on this show, which is it's a balance. I think they both said that. It's a balance, right? And different people are going to be at different points on that continuum. And all I can ever do on this show is present my feelings, my thoughts, because I'm in my head. If I try to present anybody else, I'm taking a guess and I'm misrepresenting. And so this whole show, every episode, almost, is Joe's opinion on whatever, right? I don't have divine truth that I am spouting forth. Spouting forth. I get it. I don't have divine truth that I am spouting forth, right? I just have what's happening in my head and I put it out there as a conversation. I don't expect everyone to agree with me. And I don't know where I was going with that. I don't expect everyone to agree with me. I love hearing the counterpoints. A couple things have even swayed my mind. Not on this issue. But there's a good thing that Jason said. Actually, both Jason and Evil Jeff said it, but they said it in different ways. Evil Jeff said, I don't want to be in the real world. And Jason said, I play a lot of games in the real world. And maybe that's why I don't play fantasy. But what about, why not just a fantasized version of the real world? I mean, it's medieval fantasy. Why not just set your game in medieval England and add dragons? It's good enough, right? I should do an episode about my game world someday, my fantasy world. Yeah, I really don't have a lot to add. I think they counterpointed each other beautifully without even intended. Neither one knew what the other one said, and I think that worked great. I'm going to wrap this one up here. So thanks for the feedback. So Ron, Daniel, Evil Jeff, and Jason. Thank you all for listening. If you agreed or disagreed with anything on this show, feedback at decahedron.com. If you're on YouTube, you can comment below, or you can call our feedback line, which is 562-RPG-CAST. That's 562-774-2278. Those are the best ways to get to me. Email, comments on YouTube, and the feedback line. I'm back. You probably didn't even know I was gone. What I did is I stopped to look at the episode on YouTube to see if I had any comments that I wanted to respond to. And I did have one from Jason, but everything I would have said to that, I already said to Daniel and Ron. So Jason, thank you for that comment, but I think I addressed all those points already, so I'm not going to readdress it. Thank you all for listening and or watching, and until next time, happy gaming, happy life. Bye.